For this tutorial, we're going to be tying a woolly bugger. This is one of my very favorite flies. It could be fished as a streamer or as a nymph, but it's very versatile. It can be tied in any color combination imaginable, and almost any species will take this fly at the right time and the right conditions. Once again, the first way to start is just secure our thread onto the hook. Next, we're going to wrap our thread back to close to the bend of the hook and secure our tail of marabou on. Just rotate this fly so I can see what I'm doing. I'm tying this fly on a 3x long size 4 streamer hook. And this is a fly you can tie in many different sizes. So for the tail, I just like to select a nice clump of marabou. You can kind of see this marabou coming, or actually a feather. So I find a good feather and try and get as many fibers as possible and then clip it off at the base. You'll notice there's a little, the top part of the feather, you can see it. I like to pull that out so it doesn't show up in the tail of the fly. So I just grab it and pop it off. And my tips should line up fairly evenly. I'm going to come and tie them on so they're about, I like my tail to be about as long as the shank of the hook, or maybe just a little bit shorter. And tie this on. A lot of people tie flash into their tail. I do. Sometimes. I'm not going to for this example. Now, I don't clip the marabou off yet. I'm going to wrap this forward a little bit. And when I form my body, this will help ensure that I have an even taper that doesn't drop off suddenly when I wrap my body material forward. So you can see there that we've got our tail on. Now, we have two more things left to do. The body and the hackle. And I'm going to tie in the hackle first. So for this fly, I'm using kind of a medium done saddle hackle. You can use any color you would like to that matches your fly. And I'm going to take my saddle hackle and clip it off back here because these fibers at the tip are a little too short for what I want to do with my fly. So I'm going to clip it off and shorten my hackle. And then, you know, people have different opinions on this. I like to strip the bottom part of the hackle. And I guess depending on the style of fly you want, if you don't strip this, you'll have a more full hackled fly, which you may want. Folks also have different ways of hackling their woolly buggers. You can start at the head and wrap it back, and then use some rib to secure it as you go forward with the rib from the back of the fly. I prefer to tie my hackle into the back. Tie in that hackle. Okay, hackle's ready to go. Now we're going to tie in some chenille. This is ice chenille, the black ice chenille, and the pearl chenille, and it's got some, you know, olive and flash in there. When you use chenille, I like to pull the fibers off the end so it shows the core, and this way you don't get a big poofy spot where you tie the chenille tip in. Just do a, you know, 1/4 inch of that, and then tie my chenille in. And now I'm going to take my chenille and I'm going to wrap it forward. And this eye chenille can be tricky sometimes. You want to make sure that these fibers of the chenille are kind of poking up. If you use regular chenille, you don't have this problem because the fibers are short enough that they don't get caught under wraps like these can. I carry a box that's basically full of different colors and sizes and style of woolly buggers. They're especially effective on lakes, and I like fishing bigger sizes on rivers. You can see this one's going to have a very big bushy body. You can tie them with the slim body. You can tie them with materials other than chenille for the body. You could use just straight thread to have a very thin body and wrap hackle over that. So it's very, very versatile and a very, very useful fly. You could probably catch fish on this fly every day of the year in almost every water as long as you had the right size and color combination and fished it in the right way. This is definitely a must in my fly box. When I'm fishing lakes, it's the fly I go to if nothing else is working. Or if I don't know what to fish, I just go and put on a woolly bugger and keep trying different sizes, styles, and colors until I catch a fish, which usually happens. Yeah, this one's got a very, very bushy body. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. This is a specific pattern that I like to use on rivers a lot in the winter time. Okay, now I've got this wrapped up right behind the cone head. I'm going to tie it off. A couple wraps of thread here. Clip off my chenille. More wraps of thread. Make sure it's on nice and tight. And now I'm going to wrap the hackle forward. One thing you can do is you can also put some rib in behind this so you can wrap the rib through the hackle. And that often makes your fly last longer because I found the hackle is usually the first thing to fall apart on these flies. Sometimes I rib mine, sometimes I don't. It just depends on what you want to do. I like to start wrapping my wraps of hackle a little closer when I get closer to the head. Pull it under. I don't really have any extra hackle fibers left, so I'm not going to trim that hackle off, but you may. I guess I just measured that hackle perfectly, which usually doesn't happen. So now you can see I got that woolly bugger, and it's basically finished. You just need to give it a whip finish. Tying with heads can be a little tricky, especially finishing the fly. So if you haven't tied a woolly bugger before you tie it with a head on it, a bead or a cone head or dumbbell eyes or anything, I would encourage you to tie a couple with just a plain thread head, wrapping the hackle all the way and the hackle and chenille almost all the way to the eye, just having a very small finished thread head. And once you do that, you'll get a knife for the proportions and you can throw a cone head or a bead head on there. And that is the woolly bugger. One of my favorite flies, one of the flies I grew up fishing on and catching fish on. It's a winner.